Hey everybody, I thought I'd do a little bit of a New Year's video. I'm not going to reflect too much back on the past year, showing completed things. I, I did mainly Warhammer Fantasy as well as French Indian War this year, with a smattering of other things like Infinity as well, and Epic 40K in the beginning of last year. But mainly it was French Indian War and Warhammer Fantasy. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about gaming plans and painting plans for the channel this year. Now, I do plan on kicking off the year much like I ended last year, and that is doing a lot of French Indian War painting. That's kind of what I'm really interested in at the moment, and so that's what's gonna be on the channel for quite a bit in the beginning of the year. So I do have in front of you things I've already shown. I'm not going to go into those, but I've primed this stuff before I went on holidays, and I'm planning on redoing the guys like I talked about. While I was actually waiting for my airbrush to be cleaned, I was cleaning it and having it in solvent. I couldn't actually prime, and so I started assembling my next group, and I'll just pan to them. So these aren't much to look at, but this will be the next group of French Indian War that I paint once I finish artillery and personality figures. These are French Fusiliers, and I have the command here, and so up front. And there's two standards. I ended up getting an extra third standard in the pack, so I'll probably end up using him with more troops as well. And I still have the extra flag. And yeah, there's just shy of 40 here. I think there's 38 miniatures. This will be a nice counter group of regulars to the British that I had worked on last year. And so I'm looking forward to painting up these French. It'll be a good, basically pretty good size of them to paint up. So a nice project to start the year with, or to do earlier in the year. As far as other plans for French Indian War, I do have more Krantara miniatures that you had seen, and I'll be planning on doing the French Marines, and then as well, I do plan on placing an order this year and basically getting some grenadiers for both sides, as well as probably a smattering of other things. I was thinking about picking up. It'd be interesting when the book comes from Musket Tomahawks to see how the forces are arranged, but I was thinking I'd like to get more, I guess, colonists, and so what are they? Militia is what they're typically called, like in the rules for Musket and Tomahawks. I actually have a few miniatures where I have enough to do like just a small group of militiamen, but nothing sizable, and so I think that would be kind of nice to do as well. And so yeah, like grenadiers, militia, or probably for both sides, the grenadiers for sure, or actually in the cards for the future. I don't know. Those will probably be ones that I'll do after the summer, that order. So as far as other painting, like I do think I'll end up doing Beastmen again for a number of units this year to add to my existing force. Many of you know that I actually picked up some High Elves, and that's going to be a future project, but I wouldn't expect that to be something I'd be working on this year. I really just wanted to kind of get something and going for a future project and look out for a good deal on an army, and that's why I picked that up. But as far as other painting, it's going to kind of go along with the gaming discussion, but I guess I'm just going to mention, have to mention the near future when I'm painting here. For gaming, I really expect in the near future that I'm going to continue gaming a lot of Saga, because I have historical and fantasy Saga that I can use and paint and play, and I do quite like the game. And I expect that I'll be playing Star Wars Armada like usual. I really enjoyed that game. What I'm starting the year off with gaming, for those of you that may remember, I painted Infinity last year, and we never got around to playing it, but what I'm hoping is that this month we're actually going to be starting some Infinity. And so that will be interesting. And then I'm really hoping that that takes me right up to Musket and Tomahawk's release. And then in which case I'm hoping to have gotten some progress on my French Indian War painting and being able to play both some sharp practice and Musket and Tomahawks with the new edition. And so that's really the thoughts on gaming, I think, for the near future. Now, the Marvel game would be something that after the French Indian War stuff, I'd likely be looking at painting, and as far as gaming stuff. And that would be probably the only new game I'm looking to play this year. I don't really consider the Musket and Tomahawks version 2 like a new game. It is, in the sense that I'm buying new rules and learning new rules, but it's really just continuing on with playing Musket and Tomahawks. And so really the only game I think is going to be the Marvel game, so I'm probably thinking that after we do an Old Hammer painting challenge for the Musty Wargamers at one point this spring, then I'll likely start with the Marvel and starting to paint some of that. Now I have some other things. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of them, but I am hoping to... I'm just going to kind of move these guys out of the way so I can show it. So other gaming stuff, like I was mentioning with the Infinity, that I'm hoping to paint is... At one point, depending on how our gaming goes and how much I get to use the models that I've already painted up, I have purchased some other Infinity things. Really, these are just two blisters right here, just individual miniatures. One's a Father Knight and one's called the Black Friar. I have a squad of the newer Order Sergeants, and so these complement the ones that I have, and they have special weapons and special characters and things like that. And so these would be nice to paint up and useful. And then lastly, I do have a Seraph, which is another, it's the military armored cavalry. This is a large model, and I would enjoy painting that and perhaps using that. It also comes with a little auxiliary bot as well. And so that would be fun. I used my airbrush quite a bit the last time I used Infinity. I used a combination of airbrushing and brushing, and it's nice to just sort of work on those techniques. And so I would hope, I guess it really depends on how the gaming goes in the next month as to how I prioritize this and whether I do this year. Otherwise it ends up on the shelf. We'll see. And so the other thing for gaming that I would hope to potentially try, and I expect that if I was to do it, it would likely be in the fall. And that would be, this isn't really impressive to look at, but I've mentioned this before in the channel. I have these Twilight miniatures where I basically did the sort of enemy kind of force first. I'm just going to grab one of these to show one. So I did the sort of enemy force. They were sort of like lizard-looking things. Some were bipedal, and some were just kind of like bird reptilian things. And these are sort of the good guys. And this is a fantasy sort of project. And I do have everything to play the game, but I never really got around to playing it. So at one point, I do think I would like to paint these up still, and so that's sort of in the queue of things to do. And always, they've been top of mind. I really prioritized historical French Indian War, and even my Scots last year for Saga, and Warhammer Fantasy last year. So I didn't really have room for a lot of other things, and so I would like to do that, and then potentially play that. I guess that would be another new game, even though I've had it for a long time now. I said no more new games, but that one's been sitting there waiting to play. As far as gaming goes, though, I can't really think of too much more. Like, I do want to do the AD&D battle systems, but it's not really something I've been prioritizing. It's just something I've been collecting for. And I've been sort of putting that parallel with Twilight as something that I'd like to do in the future, and so I've just been holding on to it. I've actually collected quite a bit now for it, for a force, and so I do think that would be kind of neat. I mentioned on Nerdling's channel wanting to do dioramas for my kids, but they're not these, but they're actually... At one point, I want to do a diorama for each of my kids using some Old Hammer miniatures, And I do have some diorama work that I'd like to do in addition to painting just for gaming. And so two things that I have here, I recently was watching one of the Brisbane Model Builder, or BMB Builders channel, and he was doing showing something from Mac on his channel, and that's, I know I'm going to get this name wrong, but it's the Machinen Krieger. I'm reading it on the box, I think is the way it's pronounced. It's Japanese model kit, but it's kind of a bit of a futuristic World War II kind of setting. And I've had this model for a while now, and I've wanted to do a little diorama with it. It's not for gaming. I mean, this is purely a modeling thing. This is called the New Rally Pawn is the name of it. And so I have some thoughts on doing that one, and I even have some questions that I'd probably ask BMB Builder on it. I remember that I had from when thinking about doing it last time. More questions just on some of the materials and the plastic, the joints and things, and I'm going to probably want to contact him about. And then I actually have another diorama in mind that I've been planning for quite some time. Ooh, nothing broke. Okay, this is it's a really nice model. This is a Kickstarter, the only time I've ever done Kickstarter, and it was for this Demon S from like Warhammer 40k, but this was Creature Caster. So this is like a Slaanesh demon, and I have it on this really large base. If you guys remember, a long time ago on the channel, I did a similar demon diorama with like a Bloodthirster, and it was a different company than Creature Caster, but the same sculptor at the time, and it was this Bloodthirster hitting like, or fighting like an Eldar Dire Ranger Exarch, something like that. Well, I don't have all the models out here, but I wanted to do something, after reading some of the books and enjoying the lore, you know, of 40k, I wanted to build up with epoxy sculpt, sort of like a cliff area here, and use 3 miniatures that I have. One being like, they're all pretty much from the Dark Vengeance old set, and I think they're called Chosen or something like that. But one of them I was going to do some conversions and make him into a bit of a Tzeentch sorcerer, and then the other two, one was going to be like a Khorne warrior, and the other one was going to be like a Nurgle warrior, and then this is a Slaanesh demon, and I was going to have all of them on one base and have the Tzeentch sorcerer sort of summoning this Slaanesh demoness, and then having the other 2 sort of models in support to just do a nice modeling project, do some various techniques in painting 40k stuff for all those 4 different types and some different colors and things. So I thought it might be nice to do. So I have this base, but I'd be using epoxy sculpt on all of it. So I thought that would be kind of a neat diorama project, and I would hope to like to do these this year. And you know, beyond that, I think that's a pretty busy year. I think, you know, like there's the whole Marvel game in there. There's tons of French Indian War. I'm talking about units of Warhammer Fantasy, potentially the Twilight, dioramas, Infinity. It's probably more than what I'm going to do. Sometimes I think it's good to be a little aggressive, and, you know, if you're wanting to get some things done. Last year, I actually didn't really do that much painting. I mean, I did a lot of British infantry, and I did a lot of Warhammer Fantasy. I'm pretty happy with those individual things that I did, but I didn't really, probably on the whole, like if you did like miniature count for the whole year, do too many. I'm thinking that I'm guessing I've probably painted in the area of 150 miniatures, although when I add my Scots that I just finished off, it might be, I'm thinking the area was like 150 miniatures, maybe 120, something like that, which isn't really a tremendous amount, but I was quite happy with what I got done. I think that's the thing that matters the most. This year, this is probably a bit ambitious, and you know, I'm kind of the perspective that as long as I'm happy with what I'm doing with the hobby, then that's really all that matters. You know, it's not really, I do have a fair bit to do, to go through stuff that I own, but I'm kind of hoping that I don't get into too many more things than I am. I'm really trying to focus on my historical games that I play now, And like Armada, I don't have to paint anything for. I quite like it. And then I'm really just interested in just continuing with Oldhammer challenges. And I didn't even really mention that here, but I will be grabbing from my Oldhammer stuff at least twice, I would think, this year to paint and do some Oldhammer challenges. And this year, at least for the first one, I'm going to try not to do my Beastmen for my fantasy army. I'd really like to pull something else and do something different. Because I used that challenge in the fall just to gain some headway on my Beastmen project, and I think that's totally fine because I'm planning on using it. But I kind of like the Oldhammer challenges also just to do something completely different. And in some ways, the dioramas actually add to that too. They allow you to do something different than from your gaming. And Rusty and I were even chatting recently and thinking that it might be fun to do a bit of a diorama challenge. And so we've been turning the wheels and just thinking about that too in the context of already doing Oldhammer challenges. So I think I don't have too much more to say. I mean, I think I will say that I appreciate everybody that watches the channel. I have lots of folks that I consider to be a bit of like regular YouTube friends on this channel that I interact with both on, to some degree, some folks on Facebook as well, on the Westy Wargamers page or even other places, and then on this channel and on their respective channels. And so I really appreciate those folks. I really appreciate the folks that just have stuck with the channel and watch it. I know I do occasionally get, over the course of doing YouTube, folks that have come to my channel for very specific things. So it might be historical. It might be, in the beginning, Warhammer 40K, when I first started the channel. It may even be like, let's say, if I do like a video on the Marvel game coming out. And folks do sometimes are disappointed that I don't give certain genres or certain things enough time on the channel, or there's enough focus on that. I do kind of appreciate that in the sense that, that might be the reason why you came here to begin with. What I do try to just tell folks is that, really, I don't have one focus, and so I just hope that you enjoy just watching what I'm up to, and just you're always welcome to skip if you see something that's not up to your liking or why you came here. And the only thing I do try to do, I will say, is that I do for the most part try to always come around to whatever it was. I do try to always come back to doing some fictional stuff. I always try to come back to the historical, whether it be French-Indian War or now Dark Ages. And there's very few times where I've abandoned altogether. It's true, I don't actually do any World War II gaming at all at the moment, and so that's something that, for folks that came, they're definitely not seeing that content. But to be honest, even the superhero gaming, I was kind of quite into it with the Knight Model stuff, and now I'm getting back into the Marvel again with the next iteration. And so, yeah, hopefully you see something you like, and I appreciate you folks that have stuck with me over the years, and here's to another year and starting a new decade of YouTube wargaming as a community, and starting a new decade with the Harry Sue Productions channel. So hope you guys are having a good one, and take care.